Hey, what's happening, guys? I hope you're doing well. Hey, we are in a situation today where we have record equity positions on our homes, but also in recent reports, we're starting to see record number of debt, record increase in consumer debt, credit cards, auto loans, et cetera, you name it. And so what I wanted to do is I wanted to show you a case study. This is actually modeled after a live client application that came into us. And I want to show you exactly what they potentially could do with their current situation. They had a good amount of equity. They had started to stack up a lot of debt over the years. And money was running really thin at the end of the month. In fact, most of their month was going onto a credit card because they were kind of overextended already. And so that credit card debt started to stack and stack and stack. So they had a couple of choices to make. They could sell the house, cash out, but then where are they going to go? The rents are pretty high. So I wanted to kind of show them a debt consolidation strategy that would still help them get to the finish line just in a little bit of a healthier way. And so I'm going to share that with you guys today. Let me share my screen real quick so we can take a look together. All right, let's dive in real fast here. Go to the second slide. So here's kind of a summary on this client. Bought the home back in 2012, got a great deal on it. I think they bought the home for like 265-ish, somewhere around there. And it had been refinanced a couple of times. So one time, I think in 2010 or 2012, I'm sorry, I bought it in 2012, refinanced, I think in 2018, and then another time in 2021. Now the current mortgage in 2021 was 3 3/8. And it's a great rate. I mean, compared to today, you're looking at rates that are almost double that right now. So great rate on their mortgage. They're sitting really good there. They've got a great amount of equity on that home. But as you can see right here, bills are starting to stack up a little bit. Credit cards are getting a little bit heavy. You'll see that in another slide. Got some personal loans. Personal loans were to wipe out the credit cards. And there's one auto that's fairly heavy as well. When we take a look at this, we want to kind of paint an entire picture and want to forecast out what things look like 10, 15, 20, 30 years from now, and make sure that the decisions we're making today are going to really support somebody, not just a year from now, but also down the road as well. And so we ask a little bit about retirement. This family is running just a little bit low in their projections. They had about $65,000 saved between the two of them on their 401k. They pulled from it over the years. And you can kind of see the pattern, right? Like been refinanced a couple of times. I think in 2021, some of the cash out was used for some home improvement and that sort of thing. Some other money went on credit card to finish the home improvement. And on their retirement, they had stacked up a good amount of retirement and pulled from it again to use some cash. So kind of a consistent pattern of overspending. But they're really in a place where they want to kind of buckle down. They want to get a good written plan out. They need some help, some direction. They need some forecasting because it's a little bit cloudy and unclear for them in the future. And so that's where we step in to kind of help. So right now, about 65K toward their retirement. They're sending about $5,000 per year, which is not going to get them to the finish line in the retirement years. And right now, I think one applicant was 43, the other one was 45. So we're just going to use 45 years old for this example, and they'd like to retire at 65. They do plan to stay in the house. Now, that's key because the planning that we do, if they're going to move in 2 or 3 years, may be slightly different than somebody who's going to be there for 5, 10, 15, or 20 years. So they plan to stay in the home even after retirement years, which is 20 years away from now. The household income is about 90K, give or take, and it's expected to increase over time. All right, and that's, again, also important as well because we need to kind of know, is it going to go down a little bit? That might create a different kind of plan that we need to implement, but it's expected to increase over time. It is a dual household income, so you do run the risk if somebody gets some hours cut, loses pay, loses a job, we need to have some protection and maybe some countermeasures for that as well. So let's take a look at the current situation. So this is their mortgage right now. 1326 principal and interest, 30-year fixed. They're a couple of years into it. They had refinanced back in 2021. Taxes and insurance, because they had bought the home so long ago, are only $542. And those are going to go up at a nominal pace over the next couple of years, but really not too bad. Most of their debt is really right here. Installment debt, this is personal loans and autos, and then you have your credit cards, which is $1,877 per month. Now, one thing to point out on this, that $1,877 per month right there is the minimum payment that the credit card companies are asking them to pay. Doesn't mean that they're going to throw chunks at their debt. They're just, these are the minimum payments that are required to kind of maintain the status quo, throw just a little bit at the principal on it and get it wiped out. In this case, on a credit card with a minimum, it takes you a long time. You start looking at those fine prints on your credit card statement. It might be 20 years or so before you get that thing paid off, paying the minimum. So current value of the house, about 649K. Estimated loan balance is right under 300K. They have about $356,000 in equity. So they're sitting really good on their home. So they could sell the home. But again, then where are you going to go and live? And the rents are significantly more than what they pay if you combine these two together. So they'd have to make a drastic move that way. Or maybe we come up with a plan, which is what we're doing here, is a debt consolidation plan. So right now, a household of $90,000, that's before taxes, are paying after taxes $5,317 to live. It's a lot of money that's going out the door right there. After you start factoring in, just food and energy costs and things like that, there's not a lot left over. Plus, you take taxes out of the equation, and you're left with very little. But they do have a good interest rate, and so sometimes that's where people get caught up. They're like, man, my interest rate's so good. I know I have this great equity position, but I don't want to tap into that. I don't want to ruin it because I've got such a good position here, except over here, all of this stuff starts to kind of stack. So let's take a look at the debt summary. We can take a quick glance at what's going on right here. We've got our minimum payments, we've got the balances, and we could argue that, maybe we start to go down to the bottom and start attacking or doing what they call a debt snowball. Dave Ramsey talks about a debt snowball where you can take any money that you have left over and attack the lowest balance first, get rid of it, take the minimum payment that would have otherwise gone to that debt, in this case, the Capital One account, go to the next one, then go to the next one, and go to the next one. The problem with that in this case is they didn't have enough money to actually do that. So what was happening is each and every month, food, utilities, things like that, part of those costs were going on to credit cards. And so they were having to open new credit cards just to support it. Sam's Club is an example. The Sam's Club here, if we kind of come up here, this 5269, I wasn't buying TVs. It's just groceries over time. And you're paying 24% interest on that. It gets really, really expensive. So this is a non-sustainable plan. And that's why they're taking action. They seek some advice on this. So here's the proposal. This is what we're going to look at potentially doing and utilizing the equity. So right now, about $356,000 in equity, $127K in other debt. We're going to add all of that onto the mortgage side. Remember, they're going to stay in this home until they retire and through retirement. So retirement's 20 years away. And if they stay there another 10 years, we're talking like a 30-year plan on something like this. So there's no reason for them to move anytime soon. This $127,000, essentially, whether you pay it in one bucket with just the mortgage or you pay it in multiple buckets with all those credit cards and everything, you're still making the payment on it. So let's just get it consolidated into one place. Again, this move makes sense because they're going to stay put. If they were selling in 2-3 years, we'd have a whole different strategy and approach. But they're going to sell. So we're going to move this over here. We're going to take out the cash out of $127,000 to pay off all of that debt. We're going to leave $229,000 in their home. So this is really important. If an emergency happened, if the market totally tanked and went backwards, they still are in a good equity position. They're not in a place where they would potentially lose their home. They still have $229K. Even if you wiped out $100,000 of that with some catastrophic mortgage event, you still have enough equity to sell the home, right? So you're not in a bad spot that way. Also, in addition to this 127 that we're going to consolidate all the debt, to get them based on 80% of their loan to value, they would still have about $83,000, give or take, available if they wanted to increase that mortgage even further. So maybe they did most of the home improvement, but didn't get to all of it, knowing that they're going to be there for a long time. Maybe they want to tap into a little bit more of that just to knock it out. Or maybe they want a little nest egg that they can set aside, 6 months worth of living expenses to kind of kickstart their savings plan and make them feel a little bit better about the approach. Whatever they need to do, they have a little more money if they need to. Right over here, you'll notice I'm using a 7% interest rate. So when you start stacking all of your credit card debt, you start to leverage it, you'll notice that your credit score starts to decline a little bit. You're going to erode your credit score because you're leveraging your credit accounts at a really high rate. And it's not uncommon for somebody that would otherwise be in the mid seven or even high 700s to slip down below 700 because they've leveraged their credit cards to a large extent. And that's kind of what was going on here. Could they get a little bit better rate? Maybe. But we're just using this 7% kind of conservative right now. Market could potentially shift. If you're watching this and the rates are 5, it's even a better scenario for you in that scenario. But 7 is what we're going to use for this modeling right here. Here's what their principal and interest was, 1326. It's going up to 2,902. Taxes and insurance. This is a system error here, so I apologize. It's actually 542. I think what happens is the system either rounds up or rounds down when we print this. So it shows 541. It's really 542. Installment debt now is 0 because we're going to wipe all that out in the loan. The revolving debt is going to be 0. We're going to wipe all that out in the loan. And now their household outgoing is 5317. It's going to drop down to 3443. Now, a lot of it's all stacked on the mortgage, and that can feel a little bit heavy, but you're saving $1,873 per month. And that's a massive swing for somebody. So what do we do with that 1873? Well, they do want to pay off the house a little bit quicker. And so a lot of people are so worried about rolling backwards into a brand new 30. So what I did for them is I showed them, hey, do you want to pay it off in 15 years? And they're like, yeah, it would be great. Right now they're on pace to pay it off. I think in it was right here. You can see 28 years and 8 months. If they were just to kind of continue the status quo, and they would be chipping away at the other debt along the way. But we're going to take out of that. If we go back to the 1873 in savings, we're going to take 1,025 of that, and we're going to throw it at the mortgage just on the principal side. And by doing that, we're going to pay the loan off in 15 years. So even with the higher rate, we're still going to get to the finish line quicker. And we still have some savings left over. Remember, it was 1873 in savings. We're only using 1,025 to go toward the mortgage. We're saving a ton of money along the way. You can see right down here, the balance normally at the end of the 15 years on their current loan, if they didn't make any changes, would be 174K. But now it's going to be 0. They're saving 13 years off their term. On top of that, we also want to take an evaluation of their retirement. Remember, we asked the question early on, where are you at in retirement? Are you going to be able to hit those numbers in 20 years? I know it seems like a long ways away, but it goes quick. What do you need? Well, if they're making 90K now and they want to continue to have a similar lifestyle as to what they are today, when they are 65, and if they only have 65K already set aside for retirement, it's going into a 401k in this case, and let's just say they're making an average of 8% on their return. It's going to have some up and down years, but they would need about $1.1 million. They're going to be way off. Right now, the current value of their savings and retirement is about 302. After a while, after it stacks for the next 20 years, it's only going to get them to about 302. So they need another 822K. That's a lot. Monthly, 1377. They're going to come up way short on that unless we do a little bit of a plan here. So what we did is we said, okay, well, let's take that extra. Remember, we sent some of that money to principal and we knock out the mortgage. Now we have the 848 that's extra, and let's get it to a financial planner. Maybe they'll invest back into the 401k. Maybe there's a company match that we want to take advantage of, or maybe there's an IRA or another vehicle that would be safer for them. Either way, if we aim for an 8% return, which has been a historical average, and we do it for 20 years, we're going to get $502,000 back on our investment. That chips away a lot of that $800,000 shortage. Remember, right here, they're on pace to have about 302. They need an extra 822. We're not quite there yet, but remember, we paid the mortgage off in 15 years. They want to retire in 20. So that gives them another 5 years of not having a mortgage at all to throw extra and keep continuing to invest over time. And so strategies like this are really, really important to kind of take a big picture look. Sometimes we look at just our mortgage statement and we go, man, the interest rate's so good. These credit cards, I'll just kind of eventually get to them and I'll pay them off a little over time. Sometimes time in the market, having freed up that cash long enough to have it grow in another investment vehicle and being able to take advantage of a current equity position that you may have in your home could be worth a look. So I want to challenge you guys to take a peek at some of this stuff on your own. If you have a lot of excessive debt, or if you know somebody who has a lot of excessive debt, have them reach out to us. This kind of strategy right here doesn't cost them anything. We take a look at the credit. We can even do it through soft check. We start to build out your scenario, and then we give it back to you in a proposal, and we start to look at options there. if we go all the way back to the very first screen, let me just kind of jump or actually not the very first screen, right here. One more right here. Remember, we were looking at an interest rate here of 7%. We think that rates will start to fall over time. And if they do, and you've got a 20-year window, or actually in this case, we're paying the loan off in 15 years, you got 15 years to refinance and potentially save a little bit more money. So if those rates drop down to 5.5, or 4, then we're going to take advantage of that. And that frees up more cash that we can either pay off the loan quicker if we wanted to, or better yet, we can deploy those funds for investment and allow your investment money to grow and grow, which will get us closer to that goal that we kind of identified needing. You got to find 822K. So again, this whole strategy here gets them to the finish line a little bit quicker. Guys, if you have any questions, here's all the contact information here. There's a QR code you can scan. It takes you right to our mobile app. We look forward to working with you in the future, seeing what we can do to help you out. All about helping families improve their situation and their generational wealth. So hope you found this helpful. Look forward to talking to you soon.